I've deliberately left project integration management to be the last nugget in this series. Although project integration management is just another one of the knowledge areas, so really project integration management is technically no different than scope, time, cost, quality, communications, procurement, human resources, and risk management. I actually believe that project integration management is slightly different than the other knowledge areas, and in fact that project integration management actually provides an excellent summary to project management in general, or an excellent summary to the PMBOK guide, or an excellent summary to this PMP prep series, and therefore I have left it to be the last in the series. Project integration management actually, in one sense, covers all of the other knowledge areas, as we'll see when we look at what makes up project integration management. The first is to develop the project charter. The previous release of the PMBOK guide had a second process in the what I would call initiating area, which was to develop the preliminary scope statement. In this, the fourth edition of the PMBOK guide, the developed preliminary scope statement has been removed and simply embodied into, is contained in the development of the project charter. So that's one change you'll see in this edition of the PMBOK guide, is the removal of the preliminary scope statement with the realization that the project charter really does contain the preliminary scope statement. Develop the project charter. This is initiating. So that's that part of the PMBOK guide, or that's those process groups that are contained leading up to the initiating process group. The next part of project integration management is to develop the project management plan. Well, that's planning. Or another way to word it, development of the project management plan is all of the process groups, or all of the processes rather, that are part of the planning process group. With the charter and initiation complete and approval to proceed, we move into the project management plan, which is planning. With planning complete and the project management plan approved, we move into project execution, which is our next aspect for project integration management, which is direct and manage project execution. Well, that sounds a lot like executing to me, and all of the processes that make up the executing process group. Then we move into monitor and control project work. Well, that sounds a lot like monitoring and control, and all of the processes that make up the monitoring and controlling process group. We do have one unique aspect, if I can call it that, as part of project integration management, and it is a very, very critical aspect, or very, very critical, unique characteristic of project integration management. And this is where it truly differentiates itself from the other knowledge areas. And that is the performing of integrated change control. In scope management, we talk about the importance of controlling the scope of the project. Well, we do that important controlling the scope of the project through this, which is the integrated change control. All changes, and I've said this many times through the Nugget series already, all changes to the project scope must be processed through change control to get approval to change the project. The key that we get in project integration management is that this is integrated change control. As we're exploring changes to the project, we integrate it into their project, and we ensure we address what impact this has on scope, on cost, on time, on quality, and so on. What impact this has on the 8 other knowledge areas. And then finally, we close the project, or a new set of words added in this 4th edition of the PMBOK guide is we close the project or phase. The previous release of the PMBOK guide always recognized that we do project integration management, and we will do the initiating, the planning, the executing, the monitoring, controlling, and closing on a phase or a project level. We have simply called it out and made it more blatant in this release of the PMBOK guide. So this is what project integration management is all about. It is project management. Or in my humble opinion, it is this excellent summary with which to close this Nugget series.
The first step of project integration management is developing the project charter. In the project charter, we work with the business, or often the business themselves define the business requirements. We need to define the specific business requirements at sufficient level of detail, at sufficient clarity, that we have a clear definition of what. That's what the business requirement is all about. It defines the what. This is what the project must do. This is what the project must satisfy. This is what the project will improve in the business overall environment. The project charter is developed from the business viewpoint. It focuses on the what. We will be doing a high-level feasibility analysis. We will be doing a high-level cost justification in the project charter to ensure that the project makes sense. Before we invest valuable company resources and valuable company dollars into a project plan, we need to first do a high-level feasibility study. Is it technically possible? Is it economically possible? Is it possible in the timeline required? Is it possible with the resources available to our company? We need to make sure that the project makes sense, that it's doable. And with that in place, we then secure formal commitment. We present the project charter to senior management, to business management, and say, this is what we believe is going to be accomplished. This is what we're going to do. This is what it looks like, how much it's going to cost at a very high level. Does this make sense? Do you, senior management, commit to the project? The PMBOK guide defines developing the charter as part of the project management processes, as part of project integration management. Often, the project charter itself is developed well in advance of introduction of the project team or us, the project managers, into the process. That's fine. If the project charter is done in advance of our involvement on the project, we simply need to review and validate that the project charter exists. We need to review and validate that the project charter exists, that it's at the right level of detail, and that we have the formal commitment. There's nothing in project integration management that says we must create a project charter. What the PMBOK guide says is we must ensure that a project charter, that a well-defined project charter, that a properly project charter exists, and that we have the formal commitment. And to me, the only way to get formal commitment is with the evasive signature, and that is my signature. You must ensure that people are willing to put their name on this, that they believe with enough conviction that this is the right solution, the right decision, the right approach for our company, that they're willing to put their signature on it.
With the project charter completed and signed off, we now have a formal definition for our project, and we have formal approval to proceed.
It's time to develop the project management plan. The project management plan provides the definitive statement of the project approach. It provides the definitive statement for how we're going to manage the scope for the project. What processes is the project team going to follow? What processes are we expecting the business to interact with the project team to ensure the scope is properly managed? We're going to define definitive processes for time management. What are our expectations for time management? How frequently will we get detailed time tracking reports from our team members? What format will those detailed time tracking documents be from the team members? What will the project management team do with it? How will the project plans be updated? How will the results be communicated? The same from cost. How will the project team be appraised of project costs? How much will be gathered from timesheets? How much will be gathered from the accounting system? What approval processes? What sign-off processes? How will all of the costs be accumulated? And how will the project team interact with accounting to manage the project budget? A key component to the project management plan is the quality management plan. What is the definition of quality? What is our quality expectations? What walkthroughs, what processes, what procedures will be followed? What is the quality acceptance process? Will the project be accepted with 0 faults? With no critical faults and 3 minor faults? With no critical faults and 20 minor faults? What is the quality process? What are the quality expectations? What are our human resources requirements? What team member? What team complement? When are the team members required? What are our expectations on the team members? How will the team members communicate? What are the standards and procedures for interhuman interaction within the project team? It's going to define our communications process. What information, on what time frame, will be communicated to what stakeholders? It's going to identify that you need to communicate weekly detailed status information to the project acceptor. It's going to identify that you need to provide summary project status information to key project stakeholders on a monthly basis. It's going to identify that you need to provide very high-level project information to the complete stakeholder community on a quarterly basis. It's going to define all of the approaches that you're going to use to manage and effectively disseminate project information to the stakeholder community. Absolutely critical is the definition of the risk management process. It's the identification: is this project risk averse, risk neutral, risk seeking? What are the key risks for the project? What strategies are we using to mitigate, to eliminate, to transfer, to avoid the risks? What's the contingency? What dollars? What time reserves are we putting in place to ensure that when risks happen on our project is not going to be a disaster, that our project is prepared for the risks? Proactivity. And finally, the project communications plan is going to define our approach for procurement. What needs to be procured? How are we going to procure it? How much are we going to procure? When are we going to procure it? And how are we going to manage the procurement process? The project management plan is the definitive statement of the project approach. From a PMBOK viewpoint, all plans, all projects must include a project management plan. And the project management plan must address all of our key components to project delivery. How detailed, how comprehensive the project management plan is going to be dictated by the size, the complexity, the importance of the project. Smaller sized projects may have a 5-page project management plan. Larger projects may have a 25-page project management plan. Very large, very complex projects will not have so much a project management plan, but will have a separate document that is the scope management plan. And they will have a separate document that is the time management plan, and a separate document that is the cost management plan, and on and on and on through each of the core components of our project management plan itself. The project management plan is critical. It provides the approach, the definition of how we're going to manage our project. The production of the project management plan completes the planning process for our project. Now we're into actually directing and managing the project execution. As discussed in the detailed nuggets, project execution is where the team members do the work to deliver the project itself. Our job as project managers during project execution is to facilitate the development of the project deliverables, to do what we can do as a project management team to eliminate the barriers, to ensure our team is working as productively as possible, to ensure that they are able to complete their job assignments. And we do that primarily by providing the appropriate project leadership. We support them, we encourage them, we facilitate, we do what we can do to ensure our team is able to execute the project, that our team is able to complete the project deliverables that are required to complete and satisfy the project scope statement. that are required to complete and satisfy the business requirements for which our project was undertaken. While the team is busy delivering the project execution, we, the project management team, are busy monitoring and controlling the project. In this activity, we manage the project. We manage that the project is on time. We manage that the project is delivering to budget. We manage that the project is delivering to the scope, and only to the scope. We don't want to embellish. We don't want to gold plate. We want to ensure that we're delivering the scope, and only the scope that's promised. We manage the human resource. We manage the communications. We manage the procurement. We manage the risk associated with the project to ensure that we understand where the project is and that we're taking the appropriate corrective actions to improve the project delivery situation, working with the business sponsors to ensure that any changes to time, to cost, to scope, the triple constraints, are being acted upon as a result of the facts that we are gathering during project delivery that is going to affect whether our project is on time, on budget, to scope, that risks are being identified, that risks are being dealt with, that risks are being eliminated, that your contingency is being used where appropriate, and the contingency is being applied to deal with the risks, to again ensure that our project is delivering successfully, on time, on budget, to scope. A key facet to monitoring and controlling the project work is communicating. Communicate, 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 and if you're not sure your message has been heard, communicate one or two more times. Ensure you have full, open, honest, effective, consistent, reliable. How many more terms do I need to throw in there? Communication. It's your job. You're the project manager. We need to ensure that all stakeholders, that our sponsor, that our line managers, that our senior managers are aware of the project status, are aware of the project issues, are aware of the project risks, so that they can help us successfully deliver our project. Without proper communications, our stakeholders aren't apprised of our project situation and therefore aren't empowered, aren't knowledgeable to help us ensure the project delivers successfully. A continuous process throughout project integration management is integrated change control. Integrated change control will begin literally on day 0 or maybe day 1 of your project and will continue until day finished on your project. Integrated change control is all about managing all. How many times do I have to underline all to make sure that the importance is noted? That all project changes are managed. You need to have a process for managing the small changes so that it's not considered to be a bureaucratic nightmare, and you need to have process for managing the big changes to ensure that all project changes are properly managed. That no changes to any approved, signed off project condition happens without proper integrated change management. If you have to change the color and the color has been approved and signed off, you must go through change control. If you have to add functionality that is not in the original scope, you need to go through change control. If you want to change anything that has been pre-approved on the project, it needs to go through change control. We need to have proper processes. We don't want to be seen as bureaucratic. We don't want to be seen as restricting project progress. We don't want to be seen as always saying no to the business or adding so much paperwork to the business that they perceive we're saying no. So we need to have a very streamlined process for making the small changes easy and effective while still managing them as changes, while ensuring we have proper processes in place to manage the big changes as well. Integrated change control is all about ensuring that all change is fully integrated into the project. All change is fully integrated into the project, meaning the change addresses the impact to scope, to time, to cost, to quality, to human resources, to procurement, to communications, and to risk. So each change, small or big, needs to be reviewed to determine the impact it has on the scope, on the time, on the cost, on the quality, and so on. Once you determine the fully integrated change, you're going to document that. You're going to present that, and you're going to get approval. Through approval, you have effectively integrated the change into the project. You have effectively changed the project baseline. So the new project time, the new project cost has been changed, positive or negative, depending on whether the change is adding or removing from project definition, has been changed so it has a new project baseline. You have a new yardstick against which the project will be measured. You have a new yardstick you're going to use to measure again whether your project is on time or on budget. Integrated change control ensures that all change is properly integrated, all components to the project are addressed, it is documented, it is approved, and your project baseline is augmented to include the change. The last step to project integration management is closing the project. Unfortunately, often many projects never get properly closed. Or if they do, they only address the first component, which is the administrative component. The physical closing of the books in your company that the project is complete. A key component to administrative closure is final acceptance. Getting a signature, getting approval from the project sponsor, from your project acceptor, that the project has satisfied their business requirement that we defined way back in the project charter, and that the project has completed, that they no longer have any obligations, that yes, they are happy. If closure happens at all, often it is just the pure administrative closure. Proper project closure, as defined by the PMBOK guide, is much more than that. It will go on to include proper contract closure. If you have procurement aspects open in your project, it's ensuring that all procurement aspects are closed, that the contracts are closed with your suppliers and your vendors, that property is returned, that payments are made, that holdbacks and warranties are properly applied, that all the terms and conditions for your external third-party procurement are properly closed off and finalized for your project. The two components to closing a project that unfortunately often never get properly addressed are probably the two most important components. The first of these is archiving of the project assets. Your project has produced a lot of materials, a lot of working papers, a lot of interim documentation. A lot of work has been done into producing the final product and getting the final acceptance, and that work all resulted in project artifacts, project assets. As part of proper project closure, these artifacts, these assets should be archived, put into some kind of, I'm going to use the word permanent storage, that is going to allow future projects, future members of your organizations to go back and say, hey, that project that Steve did 2 years ago, it produced a system test plan. I hear that was a really good system test plan. I'd like to get a copy of it. Without proper archival of the project assets, no one has a clue where that system test plan will be. And again, yet another project in your company is starting out with a blank piece of paper as opposed to having a tried, proven, reliable, quality asset that they can reuse and reapply. And the final component to closing out the project is harvesting of the lessons learned. What did we learn from this project? What did we do well? What would we like to repeat? What mistakes did we make? How would we avoid making them in the next project? Harvesting of the lessons learned And distributing those lessons learned throughout your organization is vital to ensure your project management processes and your organization in general progress and improve. You need to share. You need to improve. You need to add professionalism to the project management processes in your company.
This concludes our nugget. In fact, this concludes our entire series on project management. This nugget, the focus was project integration management, or better still, this nugget focused on the knowledge area for project integration management. But as I said in the beginning of this nugget, I believe project integration management embodies and defines project management in general, consolidates what the PMBOK is all about, and therefore provides an excellent summary as you do your final preparation leading up to your PMP. Project integration management is all about getting the project started right. Developing the project charter is initiating. And with the project charter set, we will present that to the business. We will validate that our project is equipped and prepared and defined to address the business case, that it is a justifiable project, and therefore we have formal approval to proceed. With the formal approval to proceed, we develop the project management plan. That completes our project planning activities. Again, we present the project management plan, which defines our approach for scope, time, cost, quality, procurement, human resources, communications, and risk. I believe I got all 8 in there. If I missed one as I rhyme them off the top of my head, I apologize. The development of the project management plan consolidates our approach for each and every one of the other knowledge areas. We present that back to the business, we present that back to senior management, and again, we obtain approval to proceed into the execution of our project. Our next area is direct and manage project execution. This is where we, the project management team, remove the roadblocks that are standing in the way of our project team members delivering on the project. Project execution is where project delivery happens. Our main job as project managers in execution is to direct and manage the execution, which I believe can be summarized as provides the support to the team to get the project delivered successfully. While the project is successfully delivering the project, we as project managers are monitoring and controlling the project. We are keeping it on track. We are making sure we're on budget. We're following our communications plan. We're doing our risk management as defined in our risk management plan. We're managing the procurement and so on. We are monitoring and controlling the aspects of the project. Throughout, we're performing integrated change management to make sure that all changes are addressed and that all changes are properly integrated back into the original project plan, and that all changes follow or address scope, time, cost, quality. Again, that integrated change management addresses all of our 9/8 knowledge areas, and again, that it properly addresses the project delivery approach. And then finally, we close the project, or as added in this release of the PMBOK guide, or the phase, to ensure that we have proper process to close the project, to harvest our lessons learned, and to be successful with our next project. With that, I conclude this series on project management preparation. I believe that by exploring and understanding the information contained in this Nugget series, you are in excellent shape to pass your PMP. So congratulations, go forth and become another member of this exciting profession called Project Management Professional.
This concludes our nugget on project integration management. I hope this video has been informative for you, and thank you very much for viewing.